All right, give it one more minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get it started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 member meeting. We are going to be in brief this year. It's a little shorter than we've done in the past. By the way, I am Melissa Stewart. I am the member relations specialist for HathiTrust, and I'm really happy that you are all with us today. I am going to kick us off with a little bit of housekeeping. Um, Remember, we are in webinar format, so audio and video are muted for all participants. Please use the chat for reporting technical issues or to discuss anything with each other, and then use Q&A for questions. Closed captioning has been enabled, and this meeting is being recorded, and we will share that all with you tomorrow after we've uploaded it to our YouTube channel. So our agenda for today, Mike Furlough, Executive Director of HathiTrust, is going to give a talk for about 20 minutes, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A. And then we're going to hear from our collection strategist, Heather Welton, and then about our resource sharing program, Ange Zaitsev, our user research and digital services librarian. And then we'll have Q&A, and then we will be all done for today. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Mike Furlough.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Just a quick check. Um, I'm assuming yes, or else you'd say something. I just want to alert folks, my colleagues know this, but I have a microphone that sometimes decides to stop working in the middle of a sentence. So I'm going to trust that if it becomes impossible for you to hear me, my colleagues will let me know. But I hope that's not happening. And the main thing I want to do now is thank you all for attending this event, whether you're watching it live right now or right now in the future on a recording. I really appreciate the work, or rather appreciate your interest in the work that we do, and I appreciate the chance to come and talk with you about it. Today, I'm going to take some time to talk about the work that we're doing, but also the context we're working in right now, and what we're doing to try to realize our strategic vision. I'm going to acknowledge some important people first before I get into the substance of my talk. Well, this is substantive too, but but let me just point out, I've chosen as my background my office here on the University of Michigan campus. As I think you know, HathiTrust is hosted by the University of Michigan and has been since its founding, but we're governed by HathiTrust members. And I want to acknowledge the Board of Governors here who are elected and appointed to represent the interests of the membership in oversight and direction setting in strategic planning and execution for the organization. The entire board is on the screen here. I want to call out a few people in particular. The executive committee includes Diane Dallas Kamatali at Indiana, who is board chair. Holly Jeffcoat at Southern Methodist University is our incoming chair. She'll become chair on January 1. Beth Namachivaya at University of Waterloo is our past chair, and Bryce Majors at the University of California, Davis leads the program steering committee. I also want to give a special thank you to two members of the board who are departing at the end of this year. They are on the next slide. You'll see Damon Jaggers and Beth Namachivaya. Damon has been on the board for the last 3 years, and Beth since the last 4 years. And that happens to coincide with a pretty critical time in our development. Coincides with the time we were doing strategic planning. We made some significant decisions about future directions for various programs. Our membership has grown quite significantly in the past several years. During that time period, I have really benefited from working closely with Damon and Beth. I've appreciated all the advice they've given and all the things they've had to say about the future of HathiTrust, and I just can't say enough thank yous to them. I also want to offer congratulations to two people who were elected to the Board of Governors this fall. They are Lori McAllister at Hofstra University and Mary Jo Romanuk at the University of Calgary. Lori is elected for a 2-year term that continues a 1-year appointment she is currently on, and Mary Jo will be serving a 3-year term starting on January 1. The Board of Governors appoints a group known as the Program Steering Committee to provide additional consultation on the programmatic work and services of HathiTrust. It's led by Rice Majors. Thanks to all of the folks whose names you see on the screen here, because they offer their insight to us on many different topics. We've come to them to talk with them about how to acknowledge potentially objectionable content in the collection, how to pursue our resource sharing service, which we'll talk about shortly, collection strategy, directions for our shared print program, accessibility matters. It's a wide-ranging set of topics that we come to them for, and we always appreciate the advice and the insights they can share. The HathiTrust teams, I want to talk about them next. I want to acknowledge that important parts of our services and operations are managed by teams at California Digital Library, Indiana University, and the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. The Zephyr team, whose names you see on the screen right now, they oversee our metadata management system, which is known as Zephyr. It handles the bibliographic metadata that members contribute to us, and that number is over 20 million records. The HathiTrust Research Center, on this next slide, the individuals there consult with researchers and students, and they develop systems and services that support text and data mining. And then last, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues here, the core HathiTrust staff. They are the folks who, on a day-to-day basis, have their buttons on the on switch on HathiTrust and bring you the digital library, our programs, and our services. I am tremendously grateful for the work that they do, and I'm awfully lucky to have a chance to work with these individuals and everybody else I've acknowledged in the last couple of minutes. So I want to continue here by talking, not ready for questions yet, talking a little bit about the work that we're doing and the context in which we're working. Last year, I came to you to talk about our strategic vision, and I shared with you our excitement for that new strategic vision. This was the result of over a year of exploration, of work we had done to investigate issues and listen to our members, and it laid out an ambitious agenda of work for the next 3 to 5 years. What we heard from you is that we should recommit ourselves to the core of the work that we had been doing, that is stewarding our shared collection. It's a unique resource. It's 19 million volumes taken as scans from print collections and our members across the United States, Canada, and around the world. I think we have the responsibility for ensuring that it's made available for scholarly users and scholarly uses, and to help libraries extend their services. Also last year, when I was speaking with you about the strategic plan, I noted that we had to remain flexible. Any good plan leaves some room for wiggling and responding to opportunities and changed conditions. And it's a year later. There's a local radio show I listen to where the announcer reminds us every week it's still 2025. And boy, it sure is. I just looked out the window. It's still 2025. We're working in a really different environment now than last year when I came to speak to you. There's been, especially in the United States, but not only, a series of unprecedented challenges for cultural heritage and educational communities. Some of these are political, some are economic. In the United States, the reduction or potential elimination of government funding for research in libraries, paired internationally with uncertain economics and dramatic changes in higher education policy, make this a pretty deeply unsettling moment for many of us. Unlike many of you, HathiTrust did not have any active grants or contracts with U.S. federal agencies that were targeted for closure, defunding, or remissioning earlier this year. But in the past, support from some of these agencies, like the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Institute for Museum and Library Services, or IMLS, have been critical to many of the programs and services at HathiTrust and the Research Center. So, for example, NEH-funded projects like Torchlight, which was a project at the Research Center to help develop new analytic tools and new visualization tools to support user needs. They also had received funding several years back from IMLS to develop a curriculum on text and data mining and held workshops around the country. The HathiTrust copyright review program began in 2008 with a grant from the Institute for Museum and Library Services that helped develop the initial workflow, program, and technology that has managed copyright reviews since then. I just think it's very important to recognize that with funding from that agency, we've been able to open up more than 500,000 titles that were previously thought to be in copyright, but were actually in the public domain. So I did want to take this minute to recognize and honor the work that public servants at NEH and IMLS have done over the years, because they have enabled a great deal of opportunity for our users, and for us, the impact they've had has been tremendous. And I think we should take a moment to acknowledge that work. Now, I also want to acknowledge that the changes in funding and practices and policies that we're seeing right now could have and probably will have very long-reaching effects. I don't think we know what these are going to shake out to be. We're some days it feels like I'm waiting for the 15th shoe to drop, but we've been trying to closely follow these changes as much as we can and reach out to as many of our members as we can and speak with them about their current situation. With the board, we've been talking about the fiscal outlook for libraries and our membership and HathiTrust. Your concerns have influenced the way we planned for 2026 and our longer range thinking as well. So, we remain committed to the strategic vision. We did, though, adjust our plans for 2026. Earlier this year, we slowed down and paused and delayed some hiring until we got through our 2026 budget cycle, and we could see how things shook out. We weren't really sure at the start of this year. And as we did that planning, we decided we would pull back a little bit. We had paused hiring on a couple of positions. We actually decided to absorb one position, or two positions actually, that were dedicated to new strategic efforts in our strategic plan. We're not giving up on those efforts, but we've recognized the need to try to address them with a slightly different approach. So we will be doing some hiring in the coming year to address some services, such as large-scale computational analysis. But we did what we could this year to try to absorb as many costs as we could, recognizing that we couldn't absorb them all, right? And I know that when we increased our budget this year, that was difficult for some of you. I'll also acknowledge that some members have left HathiTrust this year. Not very many, I think three. But at the same time, we've been gaining new members as well, including some libraries that had been members but had to leave several years ago. Right now, our membership is large enough that we've become accustomed to a little bit of change and churn in our membership. And I don't want to minimize this because I'd much rather everybody stay a member of HathiTrust, but it's not always possible. What I would like folks to recognize, though, and understand is that whether you are a member of HathiTrust or not, the work that we're doing, it's there not just to provide benefit to our members. We're trying to serve a broader public good and broader good for the community of libraries as well. And I hope that for all of our colleagues out there, you can recognize and trust in the work that we're doing and hope for better times ahead. I would say that right now, when it comes to moments like this, for me, I'm trying to do everything I can to kind of manage change. But at work, for me, I have to stay focused on the mission. That's what keeps me going. I come to work every day because HathiTrust is a testament to a long history of member co-investment and contributions to a common collective good. We preserve and provide access to a very large-scale collection of digitized materials from library collections that's been deliberately curated by you over a long period of time for the benefit of users. We all recognize that just societies really require research and scholarship that is based upon open inquiry and access to trusted knowledge. So we remain committed to the broadest possible lawful, ethical, and continuous access to the portion of the scholarly record that we steward. Landscape of information services is going to continue to change. Our goal is to remain a vital resource for our members and for the public good. We're just one part of the ecosystem here, though. But I'm here to talk to you about our little corner of the ecosystem, and I want to talk now about our strategic vision. Because we want to stay focused on our mission, and the challenge we have is to navigate in ways that can address uncertainty or adapt to things that change while also still remaining committed to the core directions that you had told us you wanted us to pursue. Our recommitment to the collection and focusing on it has meant that we want to focus on increasing access and use of the collection, expanding and diversifying the sources and the content in the collection, enriching the text and metadata and the discovery services that depend upon them for the collection, and investing in the core infrastructure that makes all of that work. For increasing access and use, I want to recognize that preservation is the basis of what we do, but it's not sufficient. We've had a logo, or not a logo, a slogan here for a long time that you don't have preservation without access, and you don't have access without preservation. There's no point in preserving things unless you can make them useful for people. That requires us to understand deeply the needs of users and how their needs are changing over time. You might recall that a couple of years ago, I spoke to you about a project, Project Lind, that's led by the University of California over 2 years. I think it finished at the early part of this year. This was deeply rooted in user research and legal research, trying to understand new ways that libraries could make expanded and lawful uses of digitized books held in their collections. We learned in that project an awful lot, really more than an awful lot, a huge amount. I don't know what's bigger than that, of about user needs. And we've been using that information, that knowledge to help chart out new courses, including a service focused on resource sharing. Through this project with California, we recognize that libraries' existing resource sharing practices and norms, which are deeply rooted in copyright law, provide a very clear way for us to expand lawful access. And Ange Zaitsev will come along in a couple of minutes to talk about that project in greater detail. I also want to briefly serve as the hype man for Heather Welton, who will be coming on in just a couple of minutes to talk about our collection strategies. She assumed the role of collection strategist just about a year ago and has been reflecting on the role, what she has learned, and the directions we need to go in. And she's going to be talking with you in a few minutes about how we're trying to craft a more proactive and deliberate approach to building the collection. In addition to that, we've continued to work on enabling core infrastructure, that is the business and technological and operational foundations for the work that we do. This includes a really wide range of activity, and I'm not going to try to tick off all examples, but it includes enhancing internal practices around information security and emergency management. Perhaps some of you noticed we were offline a little bit this morning for because of a Cloudflare incident, but we're back, and that's been part of our our planning for situations like that. Our goal is still to provide high level, high quality services that meet your needs, and to do that, we're trying to really focus on how we do portfolio management, prioritization, and a new colleague has joined us this year to focus on business intelligence for data-driven decision making. So I want to acknowledge that work. I also want to acknowledge work that we're doing to focus on accessibility. In particular, we just recently completed an update to our voluntary product accessibility template. That is something that documents our compliance with accessibility standards for our web-based services, and we intend to routinize and then operationalize the ongoing delivery of that product in the future. So those are some of the commitments and some of the work we're doing. We also, in our strategic vision, make a commitment to improving discovery through the enrichment of text and metadata. That means what? I would say I wanted to say, at the start of this talk, I acknowledge a number of things that were changing and things that were disruptive in higher education, but I did not talk about one of those, and that's that there has been over the last several years an accelerated, confusing, and sometimes confused set of developments in the field of artificial intelligence. We've all been riding a kind of a roller coaster hype curve for the last few years, and we're still living simultaneously with the techno-utopian and techno-dystopian visions of artificial intelligence, generative AI, and other forms of it. And most of our colleagues, most of our researchers, our students, many of us are sitting with this, trying to understand how we can make use of these tools in ways that are most effective, that are intelligent and thoughtful, and ethically. Essentially, we want to make sure we can use these tools rather than be used by them. And in a landscape like this, where research practices are changing and researcher interests are changing rapidly with the availability of these technologies, we recognized we had to rethink how we were supporting advanced computational methods and to what end. We had long been providing access to text for data mining through the Research Center, but we hadn't been able to translate that work into services that support or provide benefit to more users. And so that's what when I talk about trying to improve discovery through the enrichment of text and metadata. I'm talking about ways that we could apply emerging technologies or use data derived from through the application of emerging technologies in the corpus to improve the quality of user experience and improve the quality of access for our users. Our strategic vision commits us to those things, right? To prioritizing investments in these areas, applying these technologies, and doing so with a team that is capable of assessing, developing, and integrating these things into our workflows in ways that are responsible and ethical. So to do that, though, we had to match our funding strategies with these multiple objectives. And that led us last year to a difficult decision to discontinue funding for the HathiTrust Research Center at the end of 2026. I will say again that we are incredibly proud of the groundbreaking work the Research Center did and its staff. They have done tremendous things. They pushed forward on non-consumptive and non-expressive analysis of copyrighted materials in ways that were innovative and lawful. We've been doing this for over a decade now. The focus has been on bringing researchers to the computing environment and to the data. But that's a challenging technological model to keep current, especially as things are moving very quickly. Our funding model really could not be sustained, and the service use was actually much lower than we had hoped it would be. So this was a huge disappointment for us to discontinue these services next year, but it was the right thing for us to do. I want to acknowledge that the Research Center team has been taking a very careful and thoughtful approach to how it's going to wind down its services over the coming year. They are really focused on ensuring that users of these services have an opportunity to save their work, extract their data, the results of their analyses, and will have it available for them after the fact. Our commitment here is to making sure that this goes as smoothly as possible for those users. We're not abandoning text and data mining research. We're trying to support it in a more varied way with a wider range of uses and research methodologies that include model training. We're going to continue to distribute data sets, and we've been doing that for public domain materials for users, to users for local analysis for a long time. But over the coming year, our goal is to be taking a much more thoughtful and deliberate approach to deploying AI tools and methods in HathiTrust services. And we've been doing that already, by which I mean we haven't yet actually deployed any kind of AI-enabled applications on top of our services. We haven't made the corpus available for model training to any vendors or to non-academic third parties. Rather than trying to keep pace with the commercial sector, our approach has been instead to look to the academic sector for like-minded colleagues who share our values with whom we can work to chart out paths. So a few minutes ago, I mentioned Project Lens, something we partnered with on the University of California that helped us think through new access services. In the area of machine learning and artificial intelligence, I'd like to lift up another example that has been active over the past year that I think is consistent with the approach of HathiTrust. I think it aligns well with our own thinking and approach. And I can say that because I've been an advisor to the project. I've been on the advisory board to a project called the Public Interest Corpus that has been co-led by Dan Cohen at Northeastern University and Dave Hansen of the Authors Alliance. This project's been led from the Authors Alliance. The Mellon Foundation awarded them some funding to do what amounted to a research and planning grant. Dave and Dan approached this project from the perspective that the commercial sector has over-dominated the development of generative AI that relies on large-scale data sources. There's little transparency into how corpora for large-scale model training have been built, where they come from, although certainly some lawsuits have made it much more transparent for us in ways that I think some agents may not have wished. Publishers and technology companies right now, I think we're seeing the emergence of a licensing regime that will erode, if we're not careful, fair use rights and lock out researchers from access. When technology companies and publishers are exchanging large amounts of money to make content available for model training, it's hard to compete with that. It's hard to find a way in. Academic researchers need access to large corporate too, and issues around cost and access and rights often make that really difficult, if not impossible. They end up having to work with less well-curated sets of data that lack comprehensiveness. So this public interest corpus project has recognized all of that and it's been focused on how to articulate community norms and needs. It's another mode of research, and they've been convening a wide range of stakeholders for this purpose, not just technologists and researchers, but the researchers who are also our authors at our universities, who use our collections, the librarians who steward these collections, and some publishers who bring material forward to the community, to the public. Where I think we're aligned with this project is the conviction that large corpora, such as HathiTrust, have to be available to researchers and that needs to serve a broad, emergent set of interests, and it has to be done in close work with the community. Doing so for the academy serves broader interests. My take has been, if you want to serve the public interest, you need to ensure that research can be done with this material. We're in an environment right now where it's not straightforward to do research, not just because of rights, but because it's being hindered by a number of other external factors. So the public interest is served by our ability to foster research and teaching and learning. I would say that while we've broken ground on non-consumptive research support in the past at HathiTrust, We have more to do right now. We still distribute data, but we have to review our data access protocols and processes to better serve current use cases. Our commitment is to be doing that over the course of 2026. We've got to work, as we always do, towards the widest possible access so that we can provide under the law and to continually improve the way that your users can use these materials. So I expect us to be looking forward to the publication of findings for the public interest corpus in the near term. We're going to be looking at those as we proceed with our own developments in this area over the coming 12 months. To wrap things up, because I'm looking at the clock, I just want to say again that we are committed here to being as transparent as we can about our work and plans. That's why we hold meetings like this. We hold meetings like this because we want to make sure that you have a chance to hear from us and we can hear from you. We haven't met in person in a long time. We've discussed doing that. The costs are really prohibitive. We recognize that not everybody can travel for a one-day meeting, so we're going to continue to meet online because that seems to be the format that suits most folks to be able to reach them. But I'm going to take as many opportunities as I can in the coming year to reach out to many of you so that I can continue to keep track of your needs, your situations, and help understand or try to understand what you need from HathiTrust. This is a moment where there's a lot of uncertainty and negativity and anxiety in the environment. I think it's very difficult to anticipate what's going to happen late in 2026, much less, 2027 and beyond. But I will say again, if we are going to sustain ourselves in this community going forward, we've got to stay focused on our core mission and core values and work with like-minded partners who share those values. We're all librarians here, I think. I haven't checked the list, but I'm going to assume we all are in spirit anyway. And that means we believe in equitable access to knowledge. That's a core value for our profession. We strive to be inclusive in the services that we offer to our users. We try to build collections that draw from as many different and diverse sources as we possibly can to support wide-ranging open inquiry, the kind of stuff that our researchers and students came to the universities and colleges that we work at or libraries to pursue. So I think that's why we're all here. It's what I look forward to doing every day, and I look forward to working with all of you in the coming year. So there may be some questions, and when we're done with questions, we'll go to Heather, but let me see if there's anything you want me to offer or add to what I've had to say.
While you all are thinking of questions, I am going to share my screen again. Um,
Yeah, if anyone has questions for Mike, use the Q&A feature. Aha, Mike, here's one. Could you clarify the difference between the HathiTrust Research Center and the Public Interest Corpus Project?
Yeah. So the HathiTrust Research Center is a project, well, it's more than a project. It's really a program of services that we have funded since 2011, with some support also from Indiana University and the University of Illinois. It's been a three-way effort. And the way that the Research Center had been structured was to promote original research using the collection in HathiTrust, but also to develop infrastructure, tools, systems, and services that would allow users to directly interact with this data themselves. So, in the same way we offer a digital library interface that allows you to search and access the collection, the Research Center set about to create a common set of tools and applications that allowed users not to query the data, but to analyze it and extract results. They provided other infrastructure that allowed researchers to write their own programs. That's the infrastructure that we're unable to continue to support because it has not been heavily used and we can't really keep it current. What the Public Interest Corpus Project is seeking to do is really recognize that for academic users, there is a broad range of data that need to be made available for purposes of text and data mining, for machine learning, for artificial intelligence training, what have you. And that in order to do that, there need to be some pretty common and basic understandings among stakeholders in how that data can be developed, how it can be stewarded, how it can be grown over time, and how it can be made available and to what ends. It's not right now so much as it's not like a service thing so much as right now a project to try to articulate the conditions under which that environment can grow to be more healthy and we can have a thriving ecosystem. Collections like HathiTrust should be a major part of that ecosystem, but it may not be the only part of an ecosystem like that. I hope that helps.
More questions? Nothing coming in at the moment. Let's give it another second. Oh, here's one that came in directly, Mike. Will the full corpus be available for text and data mining? I guess presumably after we cease to fund HTRC directly.
So the goal, I think our goal is to make the corpus as fully available as we can. There's a couple of issues. There are issues that we really have to figure out there. When we set out to do and support non-consumptive research first, we elaborated a policy and a process for doing so. We had users come to the computing environment. We did not distribute copyrighted material outside of our environments because it was copyrighted, and we were trying to understand what were the limitations, risks, and security issues we had to have in place in order to allow users to have access to this in ways that would not risk an inadvertent infringement. So what we found is that that kind of model just does not work for as many researchers as you would hope, right? I'm going to put it kindly. I mean, a lot of folks I speak with, would appreciate it if we got out of the way of between them and the data, and that's not as always possible. But I think what we're trying to do now is, with the recognition and the learning we have from like doing a decade of analysis and work in distribution of public domain data. Where can we modify our processes and our systems and our agreements that would allow us to make that data more widely available? In what ways, in what conditions? So that is the goal. The answer to the question is that's the goal. How we do that is what we have to figure out over the coming 12 months. So.
Any other questions for Mike at this time?
Can I amend my answer? It's the aspirational goal. Right. I just want to be clear that I think I need to leave room for things that can emerge in the next year in court cases that are quite active right now that I think are really seeking to claw back fair use rights for libraries in higher education if they were successful. So our goal is to continue to make the data available in accordance with the law. And right now the law is in our favor, and our hope is that it remains in that way. So.
Here's another question, Mike. One of the only contributing libraries outside the US is Queensland. Are you looking to add others?
Yeah, we would love to have more data from outside of the United States, more collections from libraries outside the United States. Sorry, I had data on the mind there. Just recently, we completed a project to do some test deposits from Oxford University they joined HathiTrust several years ago. Heather, I'm not going to steal Heather's thunder. She's going to talk about work that we're doing to try to make collection deposit more straightforward, easier, simpler. So I'm going to defer some of that question to her. I would say right now we're hoping to see more content come in from a range of different sources, and that includes outside the United States, if it makes sense for those libraries to deposit. So.
Got one quick last question, Mike. Are all of the servers hosting HathiTrust content located in the US?
Yes. Yes. The reason I hesitated there is to say that we do have, I'll just tell you this much, right? Our core infrastructure is based on servers that are housed at 2 different locations in the Midwest, including one here in Ann Arbor. We make use of some cloud services for data disaster recovery backup. I am pretty confident those sources keep the data within the United States because of particular agreements. We have data sharing agreements we have. That's the goal. So they're all inside the United States right now. Where those different servers are that have the cloud-based forms, I couldn't tell you. So.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on.
Thanks. It is time for Heather to come on and talk to you about collection direction.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And hi, everyone. This past year, HathiTrust has been busy finalizing a collection strategy. And with this new strategy, we plan to move HathiTrust from a passive historical collection management and growth path, where we essentially accept what comes to us from mass digitization and other venues. And then our challenge in actually recruiting collections. So we want to move from that passive role to an active strategy and path where we steward, manage, recruit, and preserve our collection. HathiTrust is committed to strategic growth of our collection through expanded partnerships so that we can maintain relevance and inclusivity while meeting our member and user needs. And collaboration with you all and beyond will be key to our success in achieving this strategy. I know Jessica is going to paste the strategy there so you can all read that, because we haven't officially released it yet, but we're working on that. But really, what I want to share with you today is how we're getting started on achieving our strategy and work the collection team is doing this started this year and continuing next year to help with this. And this work includes developing metrics and an understanding of the HathiTrust collection through a new collection analysis dashboard. This will help us better understand what's in our collection to be better collaborators, but also what we need to enrich the collection from you all and more. We're also working on improving the process and contributor experience for submitting content to HathiTrust, which Mike touched a little bit on. We have already been conducting member research to inform these enhanced capabilities, and that work still continues. The good news is that change is already underway to improve this process for you all and will continue well into the future. We are also currently scoping functional requirements for an item-level management system that will enable us to manage the digital objects and their corresponding data. This will allow HathiTrust to transition into an organization that actively manages and shares our metadata that has been entrusted into our care. We recently completed a programmatic review of our U.S. federal document program, and this process was similar to the one completed during the strategic visioning process for the shared print program. We'll be sharing the recommendations and findings from that review and next steps sometime early in 2026. I'm also excited to announce that we are about to officially announce, outside of this meeting, a partnership with the Western Regional Storage Trust and the University of California Shared Print Initiatives to further develop their AGUA serials-only shared print dashboard to include HathiTrust shared print monograph commitments. This collaboration will help HathiTrust members manage their local collections using shared print data across the 3 programs. And last but certainly not least, we're turning our attention to vendor integration of HathiTrust collection to both improve the discovery of HathiTrust resources in these various library systems, but also to better support HathiTrust services like ETAS or ATRS or resource sharing. And all of these current developments, along with others that we have planned for later in the year, will help HathiTrust steward and preserve a diverse collection that supports research, scholarship, and the common good. Overall, each of these projects will help HathiTrust will help set HathiTrust up to successfully collaborate in new ways to better achieve our new collection strategy. And now I'm going to turn this section over to Ange to talk about our resource sharing service, a service that is only possible because we continue to build this collection with you all. So take it away, Ange.
Thank you, Heather. Hello all, I'm Ange Zaitsev, the User Research and Digital Services Librarian at HathiTrust, and for the past couple of years, I have been the project manager for this project to develop HathiTrust resource sharing. So at last year's member meeting, some of you may remember that we announced that we were beginning work to develop a resource sharing service at HathiTrust. And since then, we've made significant progress in building this service and testing it out with some of our member libraries. And I'm happy to provide you with an update on this project today. So next slide, please. So first and foremost, what is HathiTrust resource sharing? Through HathiTrust resource sharing, HathiTrust member libraries can register to access copyrighted texts that are also held in print in their local collections in order to distribute articles, chapters, or other excerpts via document delivery or interlibrary loan. So the primary benefits of HathiTrust resource sharing include the ability to reduce the labor that's spent in retrieving books from the stacks or from off-campus storage and then scanning those pages. It can also allow the distribution of materials that have previously been unavailable for interlibrary loans, such as special collections material. We're initially offering this service only to our member libraries that are located in the US because we're based in the US, but we anticipate eventually being able to roll this out to our non-US libraries as well. Next slide, please. So it's taken us a lot of work to get to where we are today. We've been leading up to this project since 2023 when we participated in Project Lend, which Mike was talking about. We also conducted desk research at this time to understand the world of ILL. From November of last year to March of this year, we conducted interviews with ILL staff at 14 of our member libraries and also developed the policy that would underlie this service. Then from March to September of this year, we've been developing the service, which includes building the technology, but also creating service documentation and support materials. We are now currently in the pilot phase where we are working with 9 libraries to use the service and provide us with feedback on the service, as well as continuing to do development of the service. The pilot has generated a lot of learning for our team, and in this next phase, we'll pause to reflect on what we learned, synthesize our findings, and then incorporate them into our service launch plans so that we can finally start rolling out this service to all of our member libraries that are based in the US, beginning or around the second quarter of 2026. Next slide. So the 9 libraries that are listed on the screen have generously contributed staff time to the HathiTrust resource sharing pilot. This includes Brown University, New York Public Library, Ohio State University, University of Chicago, Cornell University, University of Massachusetts at Amherst, University of Michigan, University of California at Berkeley, and University of North Dakota. The pilot has allowed us to test out HathiTrust resource sharing, confirm or correct our assumptions, and also just provided us with the opportunity to ask all sorts of questions to the ILL experts at these libraries. Next slide. One of the most important things that we've learned through this pilot is the limits of existing solutions for discovery and interoperability. Our pilot libraries have attempted to incorporate HathiTrust into their ILL workflows and systems and reported back to us on their attempts. As a result, we've been developing plans for reaching out to library system vendors, as Heather mentioned, and collaborating with them to solve some of these systemic issues. We've also learned about different local factors that can affect the value of HathiTrust resource sharing for a library. For example, if a library hasn't submitted updated print holdings data to HathiTrust in several years, they won't be able to access all eligible materials through HathiTrust resource sharing. And as we've been working with our pilot libraries, we've also been identifying areas of improvement for the service and for HathiTrust as a whole. Some of these issues we've been able to immediately address, which has been really cool. And others have gone into our tech and service backlogs to be addressed in the future. Overall, though, I think the most important thing that we've learned from the pilot is the importance of collaborating with you all, our member libraries, when building services for you. The pilot project and the member research that we've conducted has taken a lot of time and effort, but the benefits truly truly and far outweigh the costs. So if you're interested in learning more about this project, you can read project updates on our website, and I believe we now have some time to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, Ange, there is one here for HathiTrust resource sharing. Currently, must both the lending and receiving libraries be in the US?
Yes, that's correct. The way we're building our service is iteratively, and we're starting from what we know. So we're focusing initially on US libraries lending materials to other US libraries. And hopefully in the future, as we expand to include other kinds of research and policy questions, we'll be able to expand the terms of service for other kinds of libraries.
Heather, this one is for you. My library wants to deposit. How do I know which gaps in the collection need to be filled?
That's great. Great question. So what I would say is, as I mentioned, we are developing a tool that we can use internally to look at what is in our collection more holistically and get better data about it. So what I've been telling people in lieu of having that tool right now, the best method is to schedule a meeting with me. Let's talk. Let's talk about maybe what's unique in your collection, items that are really special to your users and researchers, whether it's in the state or your other community. Let's talk about that, because that would be a really great focus to start on. And those are the types of meetings we're having right now.
Here's one for Ange. Will participation in resource sharing be open to all US libraries following the end of the pilot?
Yes, we are going to be able to provide this to all of our HathiTrust member libraries that are located in the US. Right now, we're figuring out how to roll this out, because we have over 200 campuses in the US. And so we need to figure out a way to do this in a way that is sustainable and manageable and allows our staff to fully support you.
Oh, here's one. Ange came to me directly. What do members have access to right now?
Good question. So right now, all of our member libraries are able to access the full view part of the corpus. So this accounts for something like 38 or 40%, I think, of our collection. And those materials can be downloaded and shared through interlibrary loan and document delivery. I'm really excited about that because it frees up HathiTrust content from the HathiTrust community and expands the network of libraries that can have access to these materials. And yeah, I think I had a thought, but I think I lost it.
Here's a comment. Thanks for the resource sharing pilot. It's a great use of the corpus and should make our ILL and document delivery services more efficient and effective for our patrons.
Awesome, Greg. And it's been great to work with the folks at your library on this project.
Here's another one. Would participation in the resource sharing program carry additional fees?
No, we have baked this into your existing member fees. We're able to offer this as part of your regular member benefits.
Anyone have additional questions? Here's one. Do you accept EPUB files? It's like a Heather one.
Currently, we do not accept EPUB files. or any just born digital sort of items. But that is part of both the ingest work that we're looking at, and we are, so it's both part that and our collection strategy, and really thinking of the different type of formats we will be able to accept from our members that are still book-like materials, but perhaps those that are born digital.
All right, I'm going to go from bottom to top here. With resource sharing, is there a requirement, like with ETAS, to take the print volume off the shelf? Thanks.
No, because the basis for resource sharing is different, and the policy and the terms of service is different for resource sharing versus the emergency temporary access service. We don't require you to sequester the volume or do anything like that. We do require you to confirm that the volume is currently held in your library and currently in the library. And another thought here, because the initial version of HathiTrust resource sharing is focused on allowing the distribution of articles, chapters, and excerpts, as opposed to the entire text, we are not requiring that sequestration, because it's just like you taking a book from your shelf and scanning the chapter and sending the file.
And here's another one. Do you have any thoughts on the timeframes in terms of expanding outside the US?
We're definitely able to commit, I think, to exploring the policy for this in the next year. Right now, we don't know how long it will take to do the rollout to all of our member libraries. So that's the major unknown, as well as like how long the research and policy development will take for expanding the service to non-US libraries.
We've got time for another question. Here is a couple more. No, let's see. Lost track of them there. All right, then. If there are no further questions, I think I'll turn it back over to wrap it up.
All right, everybody, that concludes our programming today. Thank you all for coming. 24 hours from now, I will be sending out an email with the slides, the recording of this program, in addition, and a survey to please let us know about your experience. It really does help us to improve our future programming. And you can be entered into a drawing to receive a gift card if you do. So hopefully that will sweeten the pot for you. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being members. Thank you for letting us serve you. It really is, I speak for all of our staff, it really is an honor and a privilege to serve this community. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Melissa and Jessica, for helping to pull this together. And to
Thanks,
Ange and
everyone.
Heather for speaking. Are we completely dead off, or is it just us, or we still have listeners?